After years of searching for the perfect home, Alara, a young woman with a love for the mysterious and the forgotten, found herself drawn to a mansion at the edge of a small, fog-covered village. The mansion, abandoned for decades, stood tall and elegant, its windows like eyes that seemed to follow her every move. Local rumors spoke of a haunting, but Alara, undeterred, bought the property, believing she could restore the house to its former glory. On her first night in the mansion, the air grew inexplicably cold, and the dim light of the chandelier flickered. As Alara walked through the grand hall, she felt a presence, an unsettling, yet strangely comforting energy. She paused, turning slowly. Her breath caught in her throat as she saw him, a figure of a man, dressed in old-fashioned clothing, his translucent form glowing faintly in the moonlight. "Who are you?" Alara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I am Alistair," the ghost replied, his voice soft but filled with longing. "I've waited for you, for centuries." Over the following weeks, Alara found herself inexplicably drawn to Alistair's presence. She would often hear him speaking to her softly from the shadows, and sometimes, she would catch glimpses of his form as he wandered through the halls, as if still bound to the mansion he once lived in. One night, as Alara wandered the mansion's dusty library, Alistair appeared beside her, his figure more solid than usual, his face filled with emotion. "You don't know this," he began, "but you and I were once lovers, long before this life." Alara felt a shiver run down her spine. She could not explain why, but something deep within her stirred. Her heart raced as she gazed at him. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice trembling. Alistair stepped closer, his hand hovering just inches from hers. "We were connected, bound by love in another lifetime. But something went wrong, and I was trapped here, unable to pass on." His voice was filled with both sadness and hope. "I've waited for you to return, to find me again." Alara's heart ached with a sense of familiarity. Every word he spoke seemed to awaken memories she could not place, like fragments of a forgotten dream. Slowly, she began to believe him. The more time they spent together, the more their connection deepened, as if their souls had always known each other. Months passed, and Alara's love for Alistair blossomed, despite the impossible nature of their relationship. She began to notice changes in herself, her senses heightened, her dreams filled with vivid, strange images of a life they had shared long ago. Then, one evening, Alara discovered she was pregnant. At first, she couldn't comprehend it. A child, with a ghost. But Alistair, sensing her confusion, appeared before her, his expression both ecstatic and filled with fear. "The child you carry," his voice wavered as he reached out to gently touch her belly, though his hand passed through her. "It is both a gift and a curse. If the child inherits my soul's power, it could break the curse that binds me to this place and allow me to live again, to be with you in the world of the living." Alara's heart skipped a beat. "But what if it doesn't?" "If it doesn't," Alistair's voice dropped to a whisper, "then I will be trapped in limbo forever, unable to find peace. My soul will be torn between realms, and I will be lost to you, to us, forever." The weight of Alistair's words haunted Alara. As her pregnancy progressed, she could feel the strange power within her, as if the baby was both a blessing and a dangerous unknown. At times, she would feel Alistair's presence more strongly, his love for her palpable, but also his desperation for the child's potential to save him. One night, Alara sat by the grand window, staring out at the moonlit garden. She could hear Alistair's voice in the distance, his whispers like a breeze. He was pleading with her, begging her to make the right choice. But Alara's heart was torn. If she allowed the child to fulfill its destiny and break the curse, it meant bringing Alistair back, but was their love truly strong enough to bridge the gap between the living and the dead? And what would it mean for the child, who would carry such immense power? Would they be a savior, or would they inherit the darkness that trapped Alistair's soul in the first place? The day Alara gave birth, the mansion seemed to hold its breath. As she held her newborn child, a wave of energy surged through the house, and Alistair appeared before her, more solid than ever before. His ghostly form was now a faint echo of the man he had once been, but his eyes shone with love and hope. "The time has come," he whispered. "My fate is in your hands." Alara gazed at her child, their tiny hands grasping her fingers. The child's eyes, though only a newborn, seemed wise beyond their years, their gaze intense and filled with a knowing that chilled her to the bone. The power of the child was undeniable, radiating in waves of light and shadow. With a trembling heart, Alara made her choice. She whispered to her child, "You are my light, my love, and my future. Please, help us find peace." The child's power swirled around them, wrapping both Alara and Alistair in a cocoon of warm light. The air was thick with magic as Alistair's form began to solidify, his body gradually taking on a more human shape. For a moment, everything held still. And then, slowly, Alistair took a breath, alive once more. Alistair, now fully human again, stood before Alara, his eyes filled with awe. "You did it," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "You saved me. We are together again." But Alara, though overjoyed, knew the journey was far from over. Their love had defied death, but they still had to learn how to live in this new reality, with a child who carried the power to change the world. Together, they began a new life, one filled with hope, magic, and the love that had survived beyond the boundaries of time and death. And though their future remained uncertain, they knew that as long as they were together, they could face anything that came their way. Moral of the story: love knows no bounds, not even the boundary between life and death. When tested by the most impossible odds, love's power can transcend all things, fate, time, and even the realms of existence.